All right, everybody, the August 24th edition of the Rockport School Committee is now in session. This begins the 2022-23 school year, and of course it's the week before school starts, so it's a quiet one in a way for the parents. We have two members who won't be joining us tonight because they'll be bringing some of their older children off to college or they're on vacation. So we do have enough people for a quorum, so that's great. We're recording this meeting tonight because we have the first appearance at a school committee meeting of our new superintendent of schools, Dr. Mark W. Bronco, who sits here to the left. We're very happy to have you here, Mark. Of course, this has not been his first week here at the school. He started on July 5th, and even before then, he was working closely with our former superintendent of schools, Rob Lebeau, to transition smoothly into the role. And later on in the agenda, we'll be introducing a few special guests, or he will be. We have our interim middle school principal who's joining us tonight, and then also Mark's mentor, I guess you'd call it,
coach.
fairly, at the new superintendent induction program, who helps to transition individuals into their new roles. So it's kind of exciting to have Mark, and of course our student rep here. So I think because we're taping this, just under the assumption that there'll be parents who maybe want to see Mark and the new interim principal, that we should introduce ourselves just so we don't assume that they know who we are. So I'm Michael Kelly, chair of the Rockport School Committee. Kathy Riley is one of the members. She's the vice chair of the committee. She's not here tonight. It's very rare for any of us to miss a meeting. It's a coincidence that two members are not here tonight. Colleen Coogan is also a member who's not here tonight, taking her child back to school. And then over here to my right, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Mark Lorenz, second year being on the school committee.
Nicole Altieri, and I believe this is my 5th year being on the school committee.
Excellent. And then our student rep over here.
Joshua Farrell. I represent the students.
Excellent. And seated next to Josh's right.
June Sanfilippo, business manager, Rockport Public Schools.
So there's the cast of characters. So we're going to move quickly into the approval of minutes for May 4th, May 18th, and June 9th. I'm assuming that you all have had a chance to review them. Is there any amendment or correction that you'd like to make? Okay, so I'll take a motion for the approval of minutes for May 4th, 18th, and June 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
It's been a while. I had it.
I know. That's right.
There's only two.
We'll get there. Public comments. So I noticed a former proud graduate of the Rockport Public Schools sitting in the audience. I don't know if he has a comment because that would pretty much take up our public.
No comments.
All right. It's good to see you though. Correspondence. So I believe, Mark, yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, in the drive, I put in a memo from Chief Horvath that he sent to me after, on August 11th, after he and I had about an hour-and-a-half meeting to discuss this. So there's no action tonight. I'd just like to have a quick overview conversation so that the committee members can think about this between now and the next meeting. But the proposal from Chief is that they would like to bring in a trained comfort dog to the police department that would be assigned to our SRO. The SRO is on board, the SRO's family is on board, which I think is a big sell. And so this would be a really nice win for the community. They're looking to partner with the schools, to partner with senior citizens, to partner with a lot of other public entities in Rockport. And I've seen various levels of therapy dogs and comfort dogs in schools across the Commonwealth in the past 2 or 3 years. It's become very popular for kids and for adults alike. So this is his proposal. It's really well put together. He's very passionate about doing this. And so his ask tonight is that I kind of front load this. You spend some time between now and the next meeting checking it out, deciding if we have any further questions. If we don't, you can take action to approve it at the next meeting. If you do, we can invite Chief to the next meeting if there are follow-up questions.
I mean, it was interesting in the presentation. You gave a number of very nice examples of how the dog might be deployed to comfort and support children in various scenarios that were, less than catastrophic, but certainly overwhelming for the child. in the scenario. Any questions before we?
My only question is just the timeline. Is it,
There's a
you
pretty,
think for, like, this would happen very, very soon?
it would happen this school year. I think we're at the mercy of the training of the dog.
Yeah.
So I think if the dog takes the training well and goes through the schooling and
So they don't have a dog or?
no, I believe, that, like, so if you look under the procurement section, I think they're working with 2 or 3 or 4 different breeders to pick the exact fit for us and for the family as well. But I would suspect that the reason he's coming here is he wants it this year, I think.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a little bit in various ways over the last, we made a policy about animals in school, and so we've kind of around, so it's great to have an actual proposal that's so well thought out.
Great. Okay, so we'll take this under advisement. No request is being made to approve, but it seems like a really well-written proposal and a really
Yeah, very good.
wonderful addition to the school. Personnel, because it's the first meeting of the year, there are a lot of changes and amendments.
I'd be happy to let you read through that, Mr. Chair, if you'd like to, since you have it up and I do not.
All righty. So Jacob Beaton was appointed as an elementary school paraprofessional. Jonathan Parker was appointed as a first-year grant-funded middle school acceleration specialist. Christina Simon was appointed as a first-year grant-funded ES Social and Emotional Acceleration Specialist. Rachel Knowlton was appointed as an ES paraprofessional, ES meaning elementary school, sorry. Jeff Rodman, who was appointed as interim first-year middle school principal. Jody Goodhue was appointed elementary school assistant principal. Jonathan Muse was appointed as elementary school custodian. Jason Hohenwarter was appointed as an elementary school custodian. Michael Ori was appointed as a first-year middle school math teacher. Emily Shearer was appointed as a middle school interventionist. Declan Beaton was appointed as a high school permanent daily substitute. Genevieve Silva Boudreau was appointed as an elementary school recess monitor. Patricia Watson was appointed as an elementary school paraprofessional. And then Emma Hensler has returned from her 2-year leave as a high school English teacher.
You did much better than I would have done, by the way. So thank you. So we've been very busy hiring, as you can see. I believe some of those are literally hot off the press from yesterday and today.
That's great.
So we'll, at the end, close to the end of the meeting, I'll give them a staff update, but I believe we're really in good shape at this point.
That's great. Exciting to see. All right, so we'll move now to our student advisory committee rep. It's really great to see you even before the school year starts. Usually we're just wondering, so.
I never leave. Yeah, I'll just give a quick overview of what the SAC does. We are a group of 5 students who are elected to represent the student body both in the high school, middle school, and elementary school. The chairperson, myself, comes to school committee meetings to provide feedback on school policies and any new initiatives and how they would affect students. And we represent student concerns in any necessary capacity. And we meet about once a week, usually on the same day that the school committee would meet, so Wednesday. We post agendas on Monday on our website, which you can get to through the Rockport Public Schools website on the school committee page.
Great.
So Mr. Chair, Josh and I spoke a little before the meeting. I'm really excited to learn more about the Student Advisory Committee here in Rockport. It's a very active organization, very passionate about the school district and student representation. I'm a big advocate for student voice and choice and representation in the district. So what my hope is that, I don't know that I'll get to every weekly meeting, but my hope is at least once a month I'd be able to come into those meetings and sit and really learn from you all what's going on. And then similar to how you and I will meet regularly, Josh and I are also going to meet regularly, and kind of do a little kind of back and forth and get set so that when we have things coming to the agenda to the table, we're prepared and on the same page for that. So I think it'd be a good opportunity for him to kind of grow as a leader and for the student voice to kind of be in tune with the leadership as well. So thank you for being part of this.
Thank you.
So Josh, can I, oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was just gonna ask a question about how, you said there's 5 members total, right?
Yes.
Do you guys, is there an election? Does the
Yes.
student body elect you, or is it
The
volunteers?
student body elects us. We recently changed the date. It used to be in May. We used to elect after seniors left. We are now going to elect in April so that we can participate in the state student advisory committee as well, and we will have reps there. And the 5 members that were elected is myself, Jacqueline Ang Barber, Sebastian Lavasco, Ollie Dutton, and Kyle Curtin. So those are the ones currently serving. So I believe the election is on April 13th. You can check the Constitution for that. We amended it. So,
Great.
yep.
Mark covered both of my questions.
Yeah.
Excellent. 5 people, 1 brain. So thank you for that update. No, subcommittee updates. So I believe there's one subcommittee update having to do with communications.
Yes, so, the communications subcommittee met, it seems like forever ago now, it was last week, and I will get the minutes to you, and I haven't had a chance to get the minutes ready, and I'll get them to you. But we had talked about, switching up the purpose of the school committee communications subcommittee, because in the past, the school committee communications subcommittee was doing things or attempting to do things that are actually better and more appropriately done by administrators, so that there can be sort of this universal message coming out of the district across all the schools. And so really we talked about how to pare back what the communications committee is doing to only be about the school committee. So it would be, you know, making sure that we as the school committee are hearing from parents, from students, from community members. It would be about using our social media in a way, instead of sharing all the different schools' events and trying to make it equal and whatever, it would be just to share school committee meetings, events that we attend as school committee members, and then sort of town-wide, like town meeting, all of those kind of things. And so we had talked about, I know that we had all have talked in the past about how to, different ways to get out in the community and engage stakeholders, students, so we can talk more about that, whether that's coffee at Brothers Brew on Saturday morning, just come talk about what is the school committee, have you ever thought about running for school committee? You know, how are decisions made, what is the appropriate sort of decision tree? And also we talked about us attending events like Countdown to Kindergarten, open houses, and just being sort of visible in the community as decision makers, so we're not sort of these shadow folks that meet.
Right.
Come out only for school committee meetings. I think a lot of us do attend things as parents and as community members, but maybe making sort of that effort to go just as school committee members. Like I would maybe go to something in elementary school, or if you didn't have a high school student, you were at some high school. So those are the sort of things we discussed. So paring back to just be sort of the school committee message and gratefully releasing the communication of the district.
Right.
So the thought, I think embedded in all of that was to allow the superintendent to take the reins in terms of crafting a message that was consistent and robust in terms of sharing all of the positive stories we have about the school, but potentially don't get out in a systematic way. So
That's right.
thank you for taking that on.
No, it's good. And I think as we craft the communication plan as a leadership team, there'll probably be a branch off of that that we'll shoot right out to. And at that point, we will work with the subcommittee and, you know, make sure that when we have a district communication plan, with that piece is kind of embedded in there.
We can- So that's what we talked about, and we can sort of discuss more, you know, firm up what that looks like. Is that more?
And I think one thing that Mark and I talked about, and Josh, this may be of interest to you, there are so many wonderful events that showcase what our students can do, and gleeful parents video them, but we don't necessarily project those out in any sort of cohesive way to demonstrate, if you're interested in coming to Rockport, what is the experience actually like? So that's something that I think we've all been talking about for a while, but we've kind of lacked the production capabilities to make it into something that's as professional as other schools who may come with a formal presentation and showcase what they can do. So a lot of the, I think, creativity and skill that the students have in terms of shaping those messages is something that we'd love to tap into, because you're the ones we're celebrating. You're the ones who are actually achieving what we're looking to do here in the school district, but we need to make sure that we actually show people that.
Yes, yeah, especially in a small community like Rockport, so, yeah.
It's easy to do. Subcommittees and assignments under unfinished business. So as we ended the school year last year, we hadn't completely formalized the committees and the support of student councils, et cetera, in terms of which members were attending, and also which committees we were actually going to have, because committees can come and go. If it's not a year where there are contractual negotiations underway, there's no point in having a contracts committee. And sometimes they have special assignments like a superintendent search committee, but we presume we won't be having one of those in the near future. So some of the committees that I think it's clear that we're going to need, as we do on an annual basis, is the Budget Subcommittee. So that's one where typically the chair and co-chair of the school committee meet directly with the superintendent to review and sign off on the premise for the budget and the presentation to the various boards in town that we share that information with, the finance committee and the board of selectmen. So I think that one's probably the easiest to staff in the sense that you can't have a quorum on that in order to be a subcommittee. So that, I think, will be myself as the chair and Kathy Riley, I talked to her as the co-chair. So that one's set. Comms committee, Nicole, you had just gone through it. It looks like Nicole and Kathy would be the group that would be interacting with Mark as that goes forward. The policy committee, so I talked with Colleen. Colleen is still interested in participating in that, and that's a great thing because she's got an eagle eye. Mark, I know you've served a year on that, so
I would love to do a second year on policy.
Really?
your enthusiasm is infectious, if not
Thank you so much.
actually believable. That sounds great. Health and wellness, I don't know if, are we still,
I believe there's been a little bit of interruption because of the pandemic, but that's Amanda, is doing, I will figure out if that's still, or maybe I can talk to Mark and figure out if that committee is still.
Yeah, maybe you and I get together just so I can that was the one I didn't understand
That was
what
a
the purpose was,
district-wide
right?
sort of committee because the district's required to have a health and wellness policy.
Right.
So it was sort of the people that were around that. We
Okay.
can, Amanda King was the chair.
Okay.
I don't know if she still is or not.
Okay.
and wasn't part of that focused on the survey that we've been talking about over the past couple of years? They were writing
The
points on that.
YRBS survey, she
Yeah.
kind of came to the Health and Wellness Committee first
Yeah.
and presented, and there's working with the Public Health Department, with the Board of Health, all those sort of things funnel through the Wellness Committee, but I think it's not clear as to how it's
Okay.
going to
So,
be. But I will have you be liaison to that.
and then check in to see at what level it needs to be meeting. So those were the four that felt like they're kind of hardy perennials. Are there any committees that I've missed? We can always start one mid-year as needed, so that seems like a pretty solid lineup. And then in terms of the various school councils, so Kathy Riley had volunteered to be the school committee liaison for the high school. Mark had volunteered to be the middle school liaison, and Nicole had volunteered to be the elementary school liaison. So I think we've got all of those. And Amanda, I can send this to you too if we're rattling on too fast. In terms of the other boards in town, typically there are three that we propose a liaison with just to make sure the communication is solid. There's Finance Committee, there's the Board of Health, there's the Board of Selectmen. I'm happy to continue to be the Finance Committee liaison because it seems to make sense with being on the Budget Subcommittee. It'll just help speed the plow in terms of transmission of materials. Nicole, you have been the Board of Health and an advanced degree in that area, that field, so if that's comfortable with you, that sounds good. The Board of Selectmen, so I don't know, last year Kathy, I think, had filled that role. Mark, I don't know if you wanted to try that role or if you feel like your load is enough. It just means identifying yourself to the Board of Selectmen as the liaison, watching their meetings, but I don't want to put you under any pressure to do that. We can also check with Colleen as well. I just wanted to offer it up as a second-year member if that's of interest.
Let's check with Colleen and see what she
Okay.
does. If she, yeah, we'll touch base with her.
And
If she's not, then
Okay,
I can do it.
that sounds good.
That's a good question. So as far as being liaison to the Board of Health, the last couple of years have not been typical times, so it's going to every single Board of Health meeting. The expectation, the liaisons, we have liaisons from the Board of Selectmen to the school committee, so as chair,
Yes.
I mean, the superintendent, what is the expectation of how many meetings we attend? Or are we looking at the agendas and seeing if there's a school-related issue
So-
and only attending them?
In the past, in my experience, what has happened is, once you've identified yourself as the liaison to the chair of that committee, so we'll take finance committee, for example, then it tends to be, you get a heads-up notice from the finance committee that we'll be discussing this subject that's in your area, can you attend? And there's even some flexibility about when it comes up, but typically with the budget, it's probably a little more rigid than that. So my assumption would be that, we can't be at every meeting happening in town, but that sort of working arrangement has done us well in the
I
past.
just want to know what the typical time,
Yeah.
not pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic time, we were living with them, and it tended to be many of us, which was really, it was great to get to know the Board of Health, and it made you proud that we had so many impressive members on it. And I know now the membership has been augmented and changed up a little bit, so it'll be great to see how those people do. But I don't think the requirement or the assumption is that you have to attend every single meeting, unless you're interested in it. We had some members who were, but I don't think it's reasonable. And I think it's more important that we develop the relationship with the board itself to sort of give us a heads up when there's a topic that might interest us. Which is why we have liaisons from those groups as well who don't attend our meetings typically unless it's something that's concerning their group, so. All right, so I think, unless we think of something after we adjourn, that would cover the subcommittees and assignments for this year. And again, we can always add subcommittees as we determine their need. So we approved a school calendar, which was missing a half day on May 19th. So we have a motion now, we have in our drive the half day on May 19th. So this is really a house cleaning item. So really this is, if you feel like you've had enough time to review the calendar, if we could have a motion to approve the updated school calendar to include the half day on May 19th.
So moved.
Second?
I'm just looking at it right now.
I believe the history there, if I'm correct, Mr. Chair, was we were waiting on a prom date, is that right?
Yeah. Well, we're waiting on a prom too.
True, good point.
We got to have one.
So I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Great. So now we come to one of our guest stars, Jeff Rodman. We are excited to have you here as well, and we're delighted to find that you'll be in residence here for many days a week. So that's really great. Really looking forward to your expertise.
I'm excited to be
So
here.
if you're okay, can we invite Mr. Rodman up to the table for
Absolutely.
2 quick minutes if you want to join us up here, yeah? And I know I sent an overview about Jeff out to the community, but since we are going live, well, not live, but being recorded, I don't mind giving a quick commercial and let him kind of speak about himself a little bit. So Jeff is an accomplished school leader who spent a considerable amount of time in his career focused on middle school level education, holds a master's degree in ed leadership from Harvard Graduate School of Education and a bachelor's degree in education from Dakota State University. He currently serves as the executive director of the New England League of Middle Schools. In addition to that, over the past 2 school years, he served as an interim middle school principal in 3 different schools in Maine. Spent his first 16 years of his career as a math teacher, teacher leader, and football coach, then transitioned to leadership and spent 24 years serving as an assistant principal and principal in 4 different schools, including the middle school of the Kennebunks, where he was named a finalist for the Maine Middle Level Principal of the Year. Jeff is very student-centered, very humanistic approach, and has a deep love for middle school and leading students and effective schools. So I'm extremely excited to have him with us. High caliber leader, always a nerve-wracking experience to come in and have to hire some administrators right out of the gate. But I think we're very fortunate to have Jeff with us, so I just wanted him to sit here tonight for about a minute and just introduce himself and say hi to you all.
Hello.
I'm glad the camera is getting my best side. So, no, it's exciting to be here, and it's really been a positive start, even though it's only been a week and a few days. Everybody has been so helpful. I love what I do, and obviously we can't do it by ourselves. And the support that I feel that I've gotten from different levels and different places, including, staff at the middle school, has been really such a nice welcome for me. And I want to be able to help the middle school, as well as, all the schools of, the elementary school and the high school, grow in a positive way. And I feel that's why I'm here. But it would be remiss if I really didn't thank, in addition to Dr. Branco, the two Amy's, the principal of the elementary and the high school, Jody, Martha, and June, that we met as an administrative team last week. And it was two phenomenal learning days for us. And despite the fact that I've been doing this for 45 years, I have room to grow and to learn. And it was a great opportunity, and how supportive they were. And even within the building, Heather, who is a new administrative assistant, has been wonderful, as well as Whitney and Amanda, who is going on maternity leave, has been really helpful. Monty and Mike, Kirk and his crew, and particularly the teachers that I've met since I've started, have really been so helpful and kind and appreciative. And I hope that's what I can return to the school.
That's wonderful.
Well, I met you, Jeff, earlier this afternoon with the middle school Meet the Principal time, so it was great to meet you. And thank you for having that. And thanks for coming in.
Great.
Yeah.
It obviously not. It was kind of put together late starting last week, but I just wanted that opportunity for the parents and the students to come in, and it was a nice turnout.
Yeah, it was a really nice meeting. Thank you for stepping in. I know it's
Thank you.
not easy at the last minute.
Oh, you're welcome, but thank you.
Appreciate it.
We're happy to have you here.
And I'm happy to be here.
It's really wonderful when you have a change of leadership at the top. It really presents an opportunity, particularly when you have openings in the administrative staff, to step back and get a little perspective and a little, a voice from 50 miles, 100 miles away to take a look at the land. And I think that was a really great first decision of Mark's, to just step back for a moment, absorb, what he has walked into, and think about, what does that mean for the future? How is this prepared for the future? And I think your expertise and your long experience will be a wonderful addition to Mark's examination as we get to the superintendent's entry plan and what he plans to do over the course of the next 6 months to a year. Having you there to be able to consult and give advice allows him, I think, to have the best possible information in order for him to make decisions about what it looks like at the Rockport Public Schools going forward in his tenure. So thank you for being here. We're really excited to have you here. Be interesting to hear, how did you decide on our community? I'm sure you're someone who gets these offers frequently.
Well, it happens often. I'm surprised, and it's nice to feel wanted.
Right.
But I had the opportunity to meet Mark through the New England League of Middle Schools, and when the position opened, we had been in contact about a couple of other things that were going on, and he had asked me if there was an interest there. So one Sunday afternoon, my wife and I drove down to see what it would be like, and we said, "Yeah, this is pretty good. It's a little bit far from where we live,
Anywhere.
but." And never, I grew up in Massachusetts. I'd never been to Rockport. Living in Maine for the last 25 plus years, there was no reason to come south to Rockport. But when the opportunity arose, we came down and said, yeah, this would be pretty good, to do and to support Mark and the people that, he has working for him. And he had glowing things to say about, his beginning, his start here. So I decided, no, I can do this, and I'm going to actually live in Rockport for the year. So want to be part of the community too.
Well, usually we're not on fire. That's what
Right.
relatively new.
Yeah. So.
Hopefully we won't be when you get here. Great.
Great.
Any questions, or do we release him back to Gen Pop?
Thank you very much.
So
No, thank you for,
Thank you,
thank you
Jeff.
for
We're
having me.
excited to have you here.
Yeah.
So I think that would lead us to the overview of the new superintendent's induction program that Chris Mcgrath is a part of.
It does, so we will bring Chris Mcgrath up. So as I enter my 28th, 29th year in education, climbing right into year 30 very quickly here, while I feel like I'm an experienced educator, clearly I'm the first year superintendent. So the Mass Association of School Superintendents runs this fantastic program called NSEP, where they pair you up with a veteran superintendent, a retiree, and a coach, and I've been very fortunate to be paired up with Chris, who's also the Director of Operations at MASS. So there's a little slide for you to peek out up there, and then she will give you a nice commercial overview of the program and let you know how she'll be supporting our work this year.
That was just a trick to get you to turn.
Yeah.
around.
Let the camera see you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening. I'll just tell you, for 19 years, I had the privilege of serving as the superintendent in the Tewksbury Public Schools. I retired on June 30th, 2010, and on July 7th, 2010, I started working for the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. So I think you can legitimately say I flunked retirement. I wanted to say a couple of things about my role at MASS. I know that you have further on your agenda a discussion about the joint conference. Part of my responsibility at MASS is I'm the lead person who works with Glenn Kuchar from the School Committee Association on the planning of that conference. I want to just share with you, and I'm sure Jennifer Handy, because she's so conscientious, has sent you advanced material. I think we have planned a really thoughtful joint conference for you. Very strong emphasis on equity, on some of the challenges that superintendents and school committees have had to deal with in our current climate. We will have some how to engage in self-care as we come out of recovery and embrace the challenges of academic restart and doing our best work on behalf of students. So that's just a little commercial about the joint conference. But two other things that I just want to say. When you say we're in good shape in terms of our personnel, I'm working across this state. You are the exception. You are blessed. When I was administrator of special ed in Gloucester, it was tough to hire people. Not everybody, we love it here, but not everybody wants to get in their car and drive 30 miles to be here with us. So I just think you ought to be applauded and celebrated for that. The second thing I will mention is I'm the lead person on a seminar that we run for people who aspire to be superintendents. And the last piece, and Mark participated in that seminar. We also put him through a mock interview, as I'm recalling. And at the end of that seminar, we say to the participants, this isn't the end. If you are successful in being granted an interview with a search committee, with the school committee, we will review your paper, your application materials again, in light of the context of that community, size of district, particular issues that we're aware of that the district may have been going through, and we're happy to continue to role play the interview questions. I do that a lot. I have been so impressed with the level of interest in the position of superintendent in the Rockport Public Schools. You had an amazing field and people who really wanted to come here. No pressure, Mark. But I just think that's a credit to, I didn't look at the materials that you put out to advertise the position, but the people whom I worked with, and they were about 10 in number, were visiting Bearskin Neck, we're trying to meet with people, we're doing a lot. So I just want to say the search is over. Hopefully you won't be doing a search for a long time, but the interest in the position in this community was very impressive. So I just
Mark
passed.
and I would tell you that we had a lot of very impressive candidates, so that the field was not, it was a difficult decision in the sense that people bring different qualities to the equation, and we were happy, that we had been warned that the way these things sort of ebb and flow, you'll get no response, and then within the last couple of days, they'll all flood in, and it was mostly like that. So at the time, we just didn't know, and we had been coached by Glenn to understand that in some years, there's a lot of activity for people who are applying for superintendent. In some years, it's very fallow, so we didn't know what to expect. So I think we were pleased that there was that level of interest and the level of thought from all of the candidates. Was really hopeful for us.
And people who were not successful in their bid to become the Rockport superintendent did land in other places.
Yes.
So, and there'll be our colleagues in cohort 13, this is the 13th year of our program of the new superintendent's induction program. So the program, it is a 3-year commitment. Year 1, we participate in 8 content days. These are full days. Mark and I have 2 of those under our belt, so to speak, one in July and one a week ago on Monday. We have a hybrid format. Some are in person and some are Zoom. When the content day is Zoom, we do a 2-hour session in the morning and a 2-hour session in the afternoon. 3-year commitment, and our goals on behalf of your superintendent and your governance partnership between the superintendent and the school committee is to further develop. Mark comes to you as a fully equipped school leader, so we're looking to further develop Mark's skills by supporting his effort to act strategically on your behalf. And strategic action in this current climate, as we are coming back full tilt with high academic expectations and a commitment to developing a sense of belonging in our students. So just as you said, Josh, so that students feel they belong, that they have voice, that they have agency.
Yep.
That's important to us and I'm happy to hear that that's important to you. The focus is on teaching and learning, and to support Mark in the development of a theory of action. So he's going to present his entry plan, his game plan for his entry plan this evening. The entry plan results in the accumulation of data. We ask the new superintendent to triangulate the data. What have you heard through your interviews? What have you seen as you've moved through your classrooms? And what have you counted as you looked at your data? Your MCAS scores, your dropout rate, your AP passing scores, et cetera. There's a wide variety. We look at the development of the leadership capacity of the district, the leadership capacity of the leadership team. Jeff mentioned the 2-day retreat that was held last week. I was privileged to attend the first of the 2 days, and the feedback that I provided to Mark, you have a small but a mighty team, very impressive. So, and we're asking the new superintendents to have a laser focus on equity. And it's really your core values in the context of the Rockport Public Schools, where you work with Mark to say, what does equity look like? And, MASC has been a great thought partner with us. I know you've probably received some policies from them regarding equity. So the types of activities that Mark and I will engage in addition to the content days, we will conduct school visits. I am a silent visitor, hard for me, and I will watch Mark give feedback to the building principals about what we saw and what types of feedback we hope to see. We'll look at the degree to which students feel empowered in those classrooms. We'll look at the degree to which equity is in evidence in those classrooms and high academic expectations. As I said, I will attend and observe leadership team meetings, and I will provide Mark with feedback with respect to the structure of the meeting, the clarity of the purpose of the meeting, the commitment of the team members, and I think that's going to be an A+, I think, the level of trust and accountability. What have you agreed that you're going to do? Who's responsible for it, and what are the timelines, kind of thing. So there's a rubric that we use to provide the feedback. And on occasion, I will attend school committee meetings. Probably my most enjoyable part are the one-to-one coaching sessions. We have a session scheduled for 8:30 tomorrow morning, and we talk about the recap of the August 15th Content Day, opening day, what's Mark's approach, what's he thinking about, communication, and I'm jotting notes from your agenda tonight to follow up. So that's the program. I've been doing it for 13 years, probably coached close to 30 new superintendents, and love it. So the second year is a mirror image of the first year, but there are fewer content days. And then the third year, we gather geographically groups of superintendents together. They have 2 content days, and then we run a consultancy approach where that group comes together. They bring problems of practice, their peers, the coaches give feedback, and that's year 3, with the ultimate goal that after 3 years, Mark has a cohort of people, because it's the superintendent's a lonely job.
Yeah.
You know, you're the one man or woman in the district, so to have that kind of support, and we're blessed because we're organized by roundtables, and the North Shore Superintendent's Roundtable is a great group. We were both in the Merrimack Valley Roundtable, that's a great group, but North Shore, the peer support that they engendered to one another during COVID was very important. So that's the recap.
The 3-year commitment is really impressive, because clearly it's not pro forma, just sort of the energy you're transmitting to us tonight. I'm sure it's already been a very valuable exercise to have you as a partner and mentor in this.
Yeah, same, I mean, what you just mentioned is so all-encompassing, such a great resource.
And
I'm so glad that you guys are partners doing this.
And the folks whom I've coached really never leave the relationship, because that kicks over into, I'm there to serve. I'm at their service as the director of operations for the association.
Right. And I love the peer support too, because that local North Shore group, I mean, they're very familiar with some of the challenges they all have, but they also can provide an impartial and off-the-record sounding board for, you know, this is what we're facing and this is where you might be able to.
Yeah, and what happens at the content day stays at the content day. We pride ourselves on a norm of confidentiality, but I don't think I'm breaching that norm by passing on the following observation. So Mark is leading a school district of 750 about, sitting next to Rachel, who's the new superintendent in the Worcester Public Schools. If you were to ask me at the end of the day, did Mark learn more from Rachel, or did Rachel learn more from Mark? Mark was helping to acclimatize her to the Massachusetts way, because she came to us from California. And I said this to our colleague David this afternoon, we have a great table group, and I think we have the potential of really learning a lot from each other.
That's
So.
great.
And the other coach at the table is the gentleman who coached Rob Lebo.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Well, that certainly gives us some continuity, institutional knowledge flowing
Yeah,
back.
we both love Rob, so,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
It's been so great to meet you.
Oh, thanks. well, I was afraid you would recognize the name, because in the late 1980s, I was twice the unsuccessful candidate to become your superintendent. And a senior member of your staff actually said, "Mcgrath, why do I know that name?" And I reminded him.
I think I was still, 5, 6 years old?
Rub it in.
Nice,
Thanks.
nice.
Well, it's a pleasure, honored to be working here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Yes,
coming
that
out.
was really nice. Look forward to seeing you again.
Yes.
Bye. Well, that's a really nice segue into the superintendent goal setting and evaluation timeline.
So, Mr. Chair, in your drive, I put the draft that we had reviewed a little bit of a goal-setting evaluation timeline, just so that we all have it kind of articulated, so that as I move forward this year and I get my reflection documents together and my notes around goal setting and the work that we do collaboratively as a team, I'll kind of hold myself accountable to this timeline. So there's no action on this particular document. I just wanted the school committee to know that this will be the document that we will use to kind of guide my process as I go through this, and then ultimately as you evaluate me at the end of the school year. That does bring us to the more important document that is in your that's in your drive around the 3 goals for the year. As Chris was talking about the NCEP's work, NCEP does give you a really strong model for goal setting for a first-year superintendent. So these 3 goals are really centered around the work that NCEP will be coaching me to do. When you take a good look at them, I don't want you to think there isn't a student-centered focus and a teaching and learning focus. All of the evidence that will come out of these 3 goals, effectively developing this entry plan, maintaining forward motion. You'll see language in there around calibrating the principles around evaluation and supervision and observation. Amy Rose and I are actually going to collaborate on that this year together. We're going to develop a year-long professional development module for the leadership team so that we calibrate our observation feedback within the district. This is something I've done in previous districts. So we'll do learning walks as the entire, a little intimidating, we'll let the staff know this is happening, but the entire leadership team would come through, do some observations, we would do our mock write-ups, we would go back to my office in a really structured way and kind of doing a looking at student work model, but through the observation lens, so that we can ensure this faculty that it doesn't matter who evaluates you, ultimately what we believe are important look-fors in the classroom are going to be systemic. So a lot of the work, if you look at these goals, that might not be intuitive when you look at it is in a small district is making sure that we are extremely systemic and purposeful in our goal setting. So I'm excited to do that work this year. The word draft is still on these because I would look for you to have a motion tonight to accept these as my goals. And then what I will do is, other than that mid-year update that we discussed, what I'll probably do is keep a sub-separate goals folder that will be shared with the committee, so that as I collect evidence in real time during the school year of things that have happened, I'll populate that for you, so that, because I know it's pretty cumbersome at the end of the year when all of a sudden you have to review everything at once. So what I'll do is I'll kind of keep a running record for you that will be connected to the goals, so that by the time we get to that end, you would have had kind of an authentic look at it along the way.
So Mark, I had one just sort of housekeeping question. The document before this one had a flow chart attached to it, but I'm not sure if our copy has it in our drive. Yeah, the continuous learning.
Oh yeah, so that's from Desi. So at the end of tonight's meeting,
Okay.
I'll PDF this whole slide deck and drop it in the folder. That way you have it all. Does that work?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then the question I had for the school committee members, and it's just a procedural one, given that we don't have 2 members here, I think it would be wonderful if we had a full committee vote, which I'm assuming is probably
That's okay.
unanimous, so I don't know if you feel as strongly about that, or...
Having the full committee vote?
Yeah, having I feel like Colleen and Kathy should have the opportunity to vote on this, because it is such a important document that's going to, you know, validate the direction that Mark is going in as he sets up to enter. So I don't,
I'd be fine with that. I would like to just say that I think it's, the goals are great, and I love your idea of having the running document as data points come in. I think that's a really great idea.
That might have come from my coach.
I love that. I think that's really a smart way to handle it. So I love that idea. So yeah, I'm fine waiting, but just let you know that I really like the goals as presented.
And I'm with Mark as well, that I think this is directionally, I'm so happy that this is not, you know, ready, fire, aim, but there's a lot of gathering of information and taking advantage of the expertise we already have in the district to form those goals. And I'm not imagining that the other 2 members are going to come in and say, well, wait, there's something missing here. I just thought it would be nice to have the opportunity to have a full 5-0 approval. And I don't think this should hold you up, you know,
No.
proceeding
No.
forward.
Right.
And Nicole,
Right.
are you feeling
Yeah, that's fine.
similar?
And agree with the goals. I can't imagine.
I'm not sure I understand.
Don't talk to
In
Nicole
which-
about that.
I can't imagine a scenario which is not a, 5-0 vote, but yes. is really important, and I liked the way the goals were laid out with how they're gonna be operationalized was great, very specific, thank you.
It's nice too, that matches what Chris was saying earlier about being heard, seen, and counted. Like those three things really kind of, I feel like, take care of all of it. You can see that represented in the goals and in the entry plan.
So we'll leave it in there, and then you guys at our next meeting can.
Yeah,
check it
I
out.
think it looks great, and I really love the sort of, from the beginning of the school year, there's a plan and an approach and a gathering of data that's backing up, what will come. I think it's a very professional approach, so thank you for that, and Chris, thank you for your
Pleasure.
input into that. It feels very, very well done.
So that does lead us to the next agenda item pretty smoothly. So there's a cheat sheet up on the slide deck for you, but you should have a 4-page copy of the draft entry plan. I certainly am not going to read that whole introduction. I'm hoping you looked at it a little bit. So really the important part of this is this timeline where we're going to have, it's a 3-phase approach, basically over the equivalent of a calendar year. And I have started to informally do phase 1, but I didn't want to send out a formal survey or do any formal focus groups until the committee obviously has voted to accept this. So while I will absolutely count all of the meetings and information I've had, I'm going to formalize that process as soon as this goes through tonight or at our next meeting. So there'll be a focus on data collection from now till the end of December, interviews, focus group surveys. You'll see all of the different stakeholders. I've had the leadership team put their eyes on this multiple times to make sure I didn't leave anybody out. And clearly, if I did, then it's fluid and we'll update who those stakeholders are. I'm going to use prescribed guiding questions that are purposefully open-ended. So that they're not leading questions, and so I will, whether it's a focus group, one-on-one meetings, or surveys, they will be the same open-ended guiding questions. Could lead to follow-up questions or to a second set of data analysis or collection of information, but right now, these are the questions I'm leaning on. If you also look on the back part, the second part of phase 1 is this review of documents and data. So this is the proverbial laundry list that Chris was talking about. There's a lot of, we are not hurting for data in public schools and in education. Sometimes we're actually drowning in it, and we have so much stuff in front of us, we're not sure what the most important piece of information is and how best to use it. So I've already told the leadership team, while this is called the Superintendent's Entry Plan, this is a large team effort for the district leadership team to be part of, as well as many faculty and staff and stakeholders as possible. So we'll do a good deep dive on all of these documents and pieces of data. I'm sure there are some that will kind of rise to the top, and there are some that didn't make the list. But between the focus groups, the surveys, the interviews, and this review of documents, I should have a good amount of information by the end of December. Then I'll jump into phase 2, which is that analysis and reflection phase. I'll do some 2-cycle coding around here, and I'll pull all this information together. This will result in the leadership team and I putting together a report of entry findings. I will check that draft back through the key stakeholders, so there's some check and balance in place before it gets publicly produced at the school committee level. And then once I've kind of done that check and balance with the stakeholders, I'll come here to present it to the public through the school committee. It'll really serve as a state of the district document. And so that probably will happen toward the end of March. And then shortly after that, we'll start the heavy lift of the development of a strategy for district improvement. This is updated language. A lot of places call it the strategic plan. Many of us have been coached through this strategy for district improvement, focusing on improvement. And the concept that it is not a document that just sits dusty on a shelf in a 3-ring binder. It's digitized, it's live. The days of having a 5-year plan or a 3-year plan have sort of come by the wayside. So this will have goals and timelines and benchmarks and intended outputs and outcomes. But you'll see throughout the plan, some could be 6 months, some could be a year, others could be 2 years. At the end of every year, the leadership team would come back together in this iterative process. So if done well, and if the leadership team stays intact over a long period of time in an organization, this document is a living, breathing document. So there's no open and closed cycle anymore. Really nice way to lead organizational change and to keep systemic practices in place that are effective. So that's basically August to August. And my hope would be as we enter the following school year, 23-24, which is hard to say out loud, as we enter 22-23, we would be, embarking on a new strategy for district improvement that'll really kind of be our roadmap for 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. So again, I was looking for approval tonight. If you would also like to defer to a 5-person vote for this, I can wait.
Mark, is there anything that, I guess what we don't want to do is hold up
Right,
any
that
of
was
your
my thought, I
initial
don't
Right.
wanna hold up
data collection.
Mark being
So,
able to step
Right.
into the systematic
Right.
sort of data collection.
so if you feel like, if there's something that you can't move ahead on until you get that vote, we could reconsider taking that vote, or we could give a preliminary support of the draft in front of us.
If you could do a preliminary support and just say, you're okay with me potentially sending the survey out or minimally setting meetings for stakeholders, because some of these stakeholders are busy and it's tough to get them on the calendar.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that, and then coming back in 2 weeks for the formal. If
Yeah,
the
no, I
committee's okay with
think,
I believe,
I
yes.
think because one of the things I really love about this is sort of analysis and reflection. It falls in the sequence of building the budget, submitting the budget, approval at town meeting. It doesn't fall right on top of those, it kind of sequences in amongst them, which we don't want to delay, because that's a challenge every year and a heavy lift for, the business manager and the superintendent.
And you and I have discussed this, the budget cycle is early and fast in this particular community, which is gonna be new to me as well. So as much data as I can gather, it will help inform my decision-making and the leadership's team decision-making around budgeting and around programming and implementation and staffing. Some of the outcomes clearly are going to lead us in certain directions that will have budget implications one way or the other, so.
I was just gonna add that I think there's a real tie-in to the communication committee that you were talking about earlier, and some of the community engagement piece with your interviews and focus groups. So I'm wondering if either added to this or just indirectly, would it be possible to include school committee member or members in some of those focus groups?
Yeah, you definitely will be.
Focus
Yeah,
groups?
you definitely will be. Yeah, what I have to, this is why it's so important when I talk to Chris about setting this kind of work up. I can't have 3 out of 5 school committee members in the same group, or I can't have 3 out of 5, FinCom members or however many it is in the same group. So without having a quorum, I'll make sure that can happen.
And it doesn't always have to just be you and Kathy as the members of the
Right.
communication group. It can be any 5 of us.
Yeah.
I think it's just a nice tie-in to involve school committee members with the community and get that
Yeah.
two-way communication.
And I am conscious of the fact that Rob did live here for almost the entire tenure, where I don't physically live here, I'll be here a lot. So as soon as we get through the formal process, I want to make sure people understand there will be plenty of informal opportunities, coffees with the superintendent, whether it's down at Brothers School or somewhere else locally, or an evening. So I would like to get to that informal level of being able to network in the community. I just have to get through the prescriptive nature of this work first.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm thrilled to see this. I think this is really needed, and it's what I think what we sort of hope for with someone new coming in, as well as to sort of get that higher level look and just
Fresh perspective.
fresh perspective on everything, and really comprehensive review of so many things. So we will be very busy in the next year, but
It's good work.
thank you for the way
It's
this
good
is
work.
put together.
I've got a question.
Absolutely.
So specifically, if list students as someone that you would do like interviews and focus groups with, would you be doing that in like how are you going to reach out to the student body? Because it's very wide and diverse. And
So I'm
it's
going to work with each principal to
Yeah.
make sure that it's representative and age appropriate.
Mhm.
Kindergartners aren't necessarily taking a survey,
Yeah.
but that might be a really fun focus group for me, quite honestly.
Yes.
Right, so I think it's going to be, I'm going to work with them to make sure that there's a representative participation.
Yeah.
And if there are organized groups, just like there are for adults in the community,
Yeah.
then those groups will have, some kind of opportunity as a group or as stakeholders themselves. So you might, some students and adults might get 2 bites of the apple if they're in different organizations.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that comes out. But yeah, I'll be real careful, work with the 3 principals on that.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to support the superintendent's entry plan with encouragement to schedule stakeholder meetings and release surveys prior to the full approval of the school committee at its next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. This looks great.
Thank you.
Summer update.
So I just broke all the rules of PowerPoint right there, right? So one, you can't see it, two, there's too many bullets, so no judgments right now for the people staring at that slide. But I will PDF it as soon as I get home tonight, drop it in your drive so you can take a much deeper look at it if you so choose. What I really wanted to do for theater or effect, quite honestly, is just to show you, clearly we're not sitting around in the summer. There's a ton of work going on. So selfishly at the top, I've done a ton of meetings with stakeholders, including school committee members, board of selectmen. I've attended Rotary, Board of Health, met with a variety of staff members. As I said earlier, we did get all staff hired. Chris did allude to this. I've been in a lot of conversations with colleagues across the Commonwealth, particularly in Eastern Mass recently. I want to say the whole public schools has 50 to 100 openings. I think Gloucester was well over 20 or 30. There are lots of places that are really struggling. I'm not going to tell you it was easy, and we did jump through some hoops to get some of the work done, as you always have to. But our goal is to hire and retain quality staff. It is the number one impact on student achievement. It's not the stuff you buy, it's not the shiny buildings, it's the people who lead our children. Proven time and time again through research and application. So that's an important bullet to pause on a little bit. Kirk and his team are unbelievable. The schools are in great shape. Floors, painting, blinds, decluttering was a big one that we talked about a lot. We became collectors, would be my polite word, during COVID. I was looking for a different word, but I'm on camera. So we became collectors of stuff, to say the least, in public buildings and in public education. And we had to move furniture out of classrooms because we had to make space, and sometimes it didn't find its way back in. So we've done a lot of cleanup. These are public buildings. We need to keep them up to date and be proud of our facilities. So Kirk's staff is unbelievable. Repainted the parking lots, new sod on the goal mouths. That's a term I'd never actually uttered before. Goal mouths, I was not a soccer person. But
We appreciate it.
Okay, you know what that means then?
Yes.
I don't,
Yeah,
okay,
all
fantastic.
yeah.
There you go. So that was a new term to me. Central office moved over to the elementary school, really in line with my team-centered collegial approach to leadership. Important to me that we're all physically in one space, we present as a team. It also allowed us to leverage two needs that I noticed as Rob so wonderfully let me visit the district. One was that we had two really nice preschool classrooms that weren't anywhere near each other, which was strange, and stuff like that just happens over time in schools. So from a collaboration standpoint and a sharing of resources, it was difficult, two different hallways. So this allowed us to put them together. And Principal Rose spent a lot of time talking about the tightness of the counseling location and how she had this vision for a counseling suite, kind of a social emotional health and wellness location where they could come together. You could have service providers popping in and out. You could have college recruiters coming in. You could have job fair and that kind of work happening in one area. So what used to be central office has totally been gutted. It's actually shocking how big that area looks now. Totally gutted and redesigned for the counseling team. And I believe they're going to be ready to move in, roughly speaking, the first day of school.
I think they've already started.
Yeah.
I was up there earlier.
Good. All right. Awesome. So I do think a couple of these moves really have helped us out. Monty and his team, there's a laundry list of technology. I'm continue to be impressed with the investment in technology, the understanding that our schools need to reflect the world we live in, and that we need to make sure we're preparing kids for a world and jobs that don't even exist yet technologically. He has expanded his team to a 5-member team. We've gone full one-to-one at the elementary school and the middle school. High school is still doing a hybrid model. He and his team have been very busy getting grants taken care of to make sure we can fund all of our software and budget for the acquisition of resources. And I don't know what upgraded CAD, I know what 3D printers are, but so we've got CAD, 3D printers, STEM area, and there's a lot more to come. So one of the things I know that I was not part of, that Monty and Amy Rose had gone out and started to visit some other schools, I believe Andover was one of them. We need to get off the island, literally, and go start to look at what other school districts are doing, particularly at the high school level, but for all 3 schools. But I'd like to really start with that backwards design model. What do we want our students to know and be able to do to be college and career ready, be competitive coming out of Rockport? So everybody who lives in Rockport believes that our kids are competitive and ready. And so if we can get off the island a little bit and study what's happening out there in other districts and find ways to duplicate it, or do it in our own Rockport way, that's important. And so that work will be in partnership, I would suspect, with the technology department a lot. You heard Jeff and Chris talk about our 2-day retreat. We had a really, really nice, inclusive, collaborative retreat. Our themes this year as a leadership team are culture, managing change, and rethinking, coming right out of Adam Grant's work around rethinking and being agents of change in general. And there's a wonderful book on leading culture and the importance of connecting culture to rethinking and changing. So we're kind of using 3 anchor texts to drive that work. We've also updated our district professional development plan, and our 3 themes there this year are developing an equity mindset, inclusive practices, and literacy for all. Really, really proud of the work that the leadership team did to come together and really identify PD themes. We'll have our PD committee check in during the school year. So this will be collaborative work with some consultants, with a lot of teacher-led work, but all of our work will be based around these 3 themes, so that we can kind of, as we start to develop our strategy for district improvement, I would suspect we'll see some of these themes come through as we move forward. We had a great summer academy on with some of the grant money, with 48 students rising 2nd through 9th graders coming in for intervention work, math and literacy. Our special education extended school year program was very busy, with 54 students in there, as well as some other students getting related services. So there was a lot of learning taking place on the campus, not to mention we had partnerships with camps and other organizations, and I saw athletes preparing as early as the middle of July, getting ready for tryouts. It's a fascinating time as we get ready to go downhill into the school year. We have been very busy this summer prepping, and I just publicly thank everybody on all of these teams, all of these year-round employees who come into schools when there are no kids and there's no buzz going on, but we have to put our heads down and really make sure we're ready, and so I applaud the efforts of all of those people. Chris, you did a better commercial than I did on this next agenda item, so I won't belabor this. I have gone every year since I've been an assistant superintendent. Really great conference, November 2nd through 5th. There is flexibility. Some people go for a couple days, some people like to stay the whole time. I think that's a Wednesday through Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, but you can check in on that. Right at the Resort and Conference Center in Hyannis, it's a beautiful spot. You stay right there, the conference is right there. So in a perfect world, there'd be a superintendent and at least one school committee member going. If more than one want to go, it's absolutely okay, but I'm hoping, and you don't have to make this decision tonight if you want to talk amongst yourselves, and if the chair wants to get back to me at a later date.
Sure.
If anybody's interested in attending, it's a really nice conference.
Well, this is something that Mark and others, Mark Lorenz and others have said in terms of our own annual goal setting. We always have one about our own professional development as a school committee, and that one seems to lag behind all of the others, particularly in a couple of COVID years. So it's something for us to consider.
How about any other members of the leadership team able to go?
So they can, because I don't have an assistant super or a director of curriculum, I could open it up to a second person, so I'd have to figure out what that looks like. So if, it'd be really nice sometimes if you get 2 school committee members and 2 admin, you can kind of pair up and go to different sessions together, or the 2 school committee members go in more of a school committee direction, we go into leadership, and we come back to dinner and lunch and kind of check and see what we learn. So yeah, I'm not opposed to any model like that. Yep.
Cool. So why don't we review those materials, and also we'll send a flare up to the other school committee members, so we can talk at the next meeting about thoughts about that. School handbooks.
So I apologize for the late entry into the drive. That is not my style. Usually I have everything a week early. The lawyer is busy, very busy this time of year, and we had a lot of eyes on this work, and I know you all had done some work, particularly talking about dress code before I got here. So the short-term goal here is we had Kelsey Purcell review it. There were very, very minimal changes, no substantial changes, with the exception of the dress code. So the work that you all did last year trying to standardize that language and update it has happened, and you'll see that all 3 schools will have the same language. The rest of these handbooks, with the exception of name changes, are pretty much rollovers. This is why I'm not stressing out about the approval. What I'm more stressed out about is I'd rather enter the school year with approved handbooks ready to go, quite honestly. That last bullet, my long-term plan, and we've already discussed this at the leadership team level, because of our size, is I would really like us to design one district-wide student handbook. There's so much redundancy. It's also not like a live document, so I'd like to make it a live hyperlink document. So instead of having the dress code policy embedded in 12 places, you just have the link out to the actual dress code policy, for example. So I'd like to be able to make that happen as one of my, my admin goals this year, to just say we're gonna put together one good district-wide handbook that would have like appendices or sections that are unique for the elementary, unique for the middle, unique for the high school. So I guess what I look for tonight is an approval of the ones we have, knowing that long-term we'll be looking to really make a formatting change.
There's something really nice about the idea of one handbook too, because if you have a child going from elementary to middle or middle to high, you could preview it ahead of the moment if you were so inclined to do so. And I guess one question I had from this process, which is unfair for you right now, but what do you think the timeline should be for handbook approval? My thought is that it should probably occur as the school year ends, so that it's one less thing for you guys to be sweating as you head into the...
Yeah, normally you'd like to see like an April, May review and conversations around, because by then as the policy subcommittee is sort of winding down, you're not going to be approving anything new at the end of the year. And so you and I talked about that I would like to be in the room for those policy subcommittee meetings, because I think what's difficult when policies are made, the people who are the boots on the ground have a hard time implementing them when they're not part of that process. So if I'm part of that process and I can help the policy subcommittee make the policy make sense for application, then as we're rolling out our handbooks, it's pretty seamless. So the goal would be to have them approved at your second to last or last meeting of the school year.
Makes sense.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So the long-term plan to design one, larger handbook, would this include, a content review? Because there are lots of things that were brought up in the meetings at the end of last year, discipline codes being all over the place, attendance policies being, completely ineffective, so.
So there'll be probably a handbook review committee, and again, we'll probably have student representatives on that committee all the way up to me, right? And so, and we'll put that out there from a legal standpoint to a practical standpoint. So there'll be some voice from faculty, from students, from admin, all the way through. Yep, absolutely.
Any questions? School committee concerns? Right, so do we have a motion to approve the elementary, middle, and high school student handbooks as presented?
So much.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, COVID update.
Thank you for the handbook approval. So this is just an excerpt from Commissioner Riley's most recent memo out to superintendents and school leaders. I did attend about an hour and 15-minute Zoom meeting with all of the superintendents and leaders last week. I think there was a rerun of it today, which I chose to not go to because it was the same content. So this is a quick snippet, but I have the entire memorandum here. The short version is that the Commonwealth is not recommending universal masking requirements, surveillance testing of asymptomatic individuals, contact tracing, or test to stay in schools. The funding is no longer there at the federal or the state level, and they really, really want us to focus on teaching and learning and keeping your healthy and safe environments with an understanding that it's not gone, that it still is in our world and we have to be proactive and reactive at the same time. So I have not met with our nurses yet. I will be meeting. I wanted to talk tonight about this. I will send a memo out. I haven't communicated to the parent base and the community since my first week when I sent my introductory memo out. So my goal is to send out a nice message from the superintendent's office before the first day of school, and there'll be some information over in that message. Just because I know there's a lot of questions, just to let people know that we're still taking care, we're still doing mitigating strategies, we're working with school nurses. We're going to be still looking at our filtration systems and our air quality systems. And the one location, the nurse's office, the health suite's still a masked locations because they count as state level medical. But I'm not going to say that to normal. I think I would probably never say that, quite honestly. But it's as close to a focus on teaching and learning as we've had in a long time. And so that does make me happy, but I'm still it's one of those abundance of caution things right now.
I think something I've heard from the community in general is I think there's a lot of confusion about what exactly, not even for schools, but who has to quarantine, for how long, and do you need to wear a mask after 5 days, 6 days, for 10 days? So I think it will be really important to have clear, centralized communication about what those sort of recommendations and rules are. I don't know whether that comes from the school nurses or from the superintendent, but I know there's just, in general, for all of us, a lot of confusion. And so I think that, just making sure that we're clear in what the.
So I'll bullet out some of that information and then work with the nurses for secondary and follow-up information. No asymptomatic person should be excluded from school as a result of exposure. That's a huge shift. So there's some really strict language to this. Contact tracing is no longer recommended statewide at all in K-12 schools. So there's some highlights that I'll just kind of point out as specifically as I can. Recognizing that not everybody's in this place. There are still some people who want to be more cautious and aren't necessarily going to be thrilled with this, but I'll try to lay it out as carefully as possible. Principals will be doing every Friday newsletters. We have contracted with a third-party company who's going to help us manage. It's called SMORE, to help us manage a newsletter that will go out in very similar profiles, so you won't get one Google Doc from a principal in a different format. And so those, we're going to have very prescriptive setups, information from the grade levels, information from the nurse's office. So we've kind of calibrated on what those can look like. So we'll make sure that there's something coming out of the health offices, probably monthly, just to let everybody know where we stand. And if we have to turn on a dime, turn on a dime.
I would just like to, add that I agree with Nicole, that it's very important to make sure that, the attendance policies in these cases are standardized and are easy to follow. Because, we've all had people go back to school that are very sick with COVID. So it's important that we give people enough time to recover, and even if you aren't going through all the steps to contact trace and prevent all of it, it's going to spread, and it's important to recognize that it is, it can take a toll on your body, and it's important to give people, the space and the respect that they need to recover from that.
Well said. Good. So June is with us tonight. I've done as much research as quickly as I can about the language of Rockport around budgeting and stuff like fund flow and other things like that. So June's going to give us a quick overview of a few hot items now, and then let you know what we'll be doing once a month at the school committee level, just kind of keep us all in the know.
Okay. As you know, or would like to be reminded of, we were a little concerned with the targeted end-of-year reserve balance due to inside and outside influences of the world. But as we've been posting, and the town's been closing out and posting summer things, bills, invoices, payroll, and whatnot, I am pleased to say we are much, much closer to the targeted amount that Rob had set in the previous budget than we thought. Obviously, the fund flow reports, the glass is not half full. It's always half empty. You have to plan that way so you're not blindsided. So it's great news. It's not totally there, but it's very close. So the other phrase, the override will have legs. As of now. As of now. Yes, as of now. Another great factor contributing to that already for this year is that we have a potential cost avoidance of over $300,000 in our special ed department. And this savings should be more than enough to cover the additional needs of some of our current students that you must provide, and we want to provide for them. So that will not be a hit to this year's budget as of right now. So that's great news. We usually don't get that news this time of year. The third point I wanted to bring up was last year was the first year that we did summer checks to our 10-month staff members. We pay them through August. And in the past, what you did was, in June, they would receive, back in the day, paper checks or with auto pay in their account, their last paycheck plus all the 4 summer checks. And it did allow for books to be closed much earlier, but last year, it was decided to pay them consistently bi-weekly right through. That did raise a lot of challenges at the town level with the software program that they use for the general ledger that had never been set up that way before. What are the limitations, et cetera. And this year, the town graciously hired a consultant to take on that task. And Lisa was also very generous to be willing to meet over Zoom with Allison and myself to discuss last year's problems, and was very open to hearing our suggestions and allowed us to, I guess, micromanage the analysis of a summer pay, each step of each person, where it should go, is it wrong, where should it be? And I'm happy to say, instead of waiting till December in some cases for a few of those entries, she just posted it all this week. So that's amazing, and it helps to close out the year faster. At probably town hall, they're probably very relieved that that's off their desk as well.
That's
So-
like a huge quality of life issue.
It
for
is,
everyone
well, I can't
involved.
imagine at
It's
town
been a
hall,
long
it must be a
fight.
huge quality of life for the accounting and treasurer's departments to be able to just put that aside. So, looking forward to a great year, and hopefully it will continue on that reserve path.
And one of the things June and I talked about would be at the second meeting of every month, starting in October, to come back with that formal fund flow, just to give us all kind of a check once a month at how we're doing.
Great.
As long as you guys are good with that model, I think that would make
Yeah,
us
I think
comfortable.
that would definitely be sort of.
We would probably start the end of October, because right now, there's nothing to discuss
Yeah.
at all. And September's quite crazy, and we would want to give people that provide data time to just settle into their role for the year and get everything up and
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
I would love to have a visual that goes along with that.
Yeah.
So not just the fund flow, but the budget, like you talking about the 300,000 in special education. I'd love to see like just a snapshot of the budget
Mhm.
where that kind of is, just for my own head.
Sure.
If that's possible to do. I don't know how easy that would be to do, but
We could talk about that.
It would
You
be-
could maybe put it in your folders.
yeah,
if
even just
it-
like
if
a
it's
snapshot or
special
just a
ed,
picture.
special ed,
Yeah.
maybe in their
Because
folders.
sometimes that budget for me, being second year, last year it was like, whoa, so
Yes.
overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
That anything that can help me kind of see where that is and
Oh, definitely.
really.
So why don't we, or June probably, because there's no we in this part of this. So, you know, maybe you'll create a couple models, and if you want to kick them out and say, is this, you know,
I mean, it's
until we get it right.
Very simple,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
something really,
It could be
just
just even bullets.
very simple, yeah, whatever.
This
that is.
budget line went up 100,
Right.
we're estimating this will go down 100.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like what it was estimated and here's where it's going, up or down, yeah, just like.
Sure.
Yeah, something really simple would be great.
It might also be helpful, June, just thinking along those lines to the audience, we might have as well. The most difficult part about the budget is sort of the inflows and outflows that occur, you know, they're pending. So what looks like a surplus this month is completely a deficit by next month. So it might be helpful to have a few bullet points too about, keep in mind, you know, the money paid in arrears is not in yet, or keep in mind that
Mhm.
this is a
Well-
flow through with other districts who, you know, yes, we're paying sped costs for them, but they flow through from the other district and that money is to a, that sort of thing, just to
Sure.
keep the context there.
Well, I could elaborate a little bit on this 300 cost avoidance, and that it would cover our current students. It's the ones that are in-house now. So for example, if a family moves into town in November and they have children with extensive needs, that 300 may disappear with one child.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we're excited about that we're covering increased needs that weren't even anticipated because we do the budget process so early.
Okay, let's play with that a little bit.
Yeah.
That'd be great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then the only last thing I have is just to remind ourselves that we've got a lot of meetings coming up, first and third Thursday of the month, right through December.
Yes, we do.
So I just put it out there so we make sure our calendars are all calibrated, that's all.
There is a little house cleaning here under finance, and that is these documents, the warrants for payment. So these are something that submitted by the business office, they go to the superintendent, he reviews them, and the current superintendent, to get a feel for the flow of materials, he's signing each and every one of them and looking at each and every one of them so he understands what the outflows are looking like. And typically in our history for at least the last 10 or 15 years, the oversight by the school committee chair signs off on these, but if the school committee chair, for whatever reason, can't be located, any member of the school committee can be called up, hey, we really need to get this into town hall. But we've never really formally every year authorized this so that there's full transparency into, hey, who's looking at these things and what are they doing? So the thought here for tonight is to have two motions which don't change any of our procedure for the last decade or so, which is to authorize the chair to sign these as a single signer rather than circulate them among 5 people, but then to also authorize any member of the school committee can be called upon if you can't find the chair and there's a need to get it down to town hall for payment. So any questions or concerns about that? Okay, so I'm going to ask first, is there a motion to approve the chairman of the school committee as a single signer for the warrants after they've been reviewed by the school superintendent?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the second motion is there a motion to approve any of the school committee members to serve as a single signer in the chair's absence for the warrants presented by the superintendent for signature?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Great. And that brings us to school committee discussion. Is there anything that we wanted to bring as a walk-on item? I can share that accidentally, I got an emergency call that hand wipes were needed for kindergartners who were having an art project today in the, what was it called? It's
The
like
countdown for kindergarten.
Countdown for Kindergarten.
Which is
So
back.
I raced here where they were not. They were in the library downtown.
Oh.
And when I got there, it was absolutely the cutest thing you can ever imagine. These children were so small and so perfect and so excited to be going to school. When the performer with the guitar said, "Who's excited to go to school?" Some of them were raising both hands, so I guess they were like twice as excited as not. But they were singing and dancing, and it really made you understand why people become elementary school teachers, because the sort of energy and exuberance and openness in their faces, and just the sheer number of them. And of course, the parents floating around wondering what it's gonna be like in just a few weeks, getting the margaritas ready, I imagine, for the first day of school.
It's a good partnership with the CFCE grant and the library, and there were a bunch of, the YMCA was there, the Ed Foundation, the PTO.
Cape Ann Museum.
Cape Ann Museum, not to forget Kathy Kelly and the Cape Ann Museum. And the 3Rs Foundation, so it was really great to have. I want to say most of the incoming kindergarten class came
It's
to
amazing.
this event. There's a
Yeah.
huge turnout, and it's back after, I think, a 2-year hiatus. So it's great. They got little backpacks, and they have to fill them.
Got to sing and
with all kinds of
dance.
stuff, so it's
The
great.
new
Highly recommend
assistant
attending.
principal was
New
there.
Assistant principal.
Principal was there.
And of course, the stars of the show are the kindergarten teachers. That's what everyone wants, is to see their kindergarten teachers.
So happy.
The only thing I have to add before we adjourn tonight is just to remind everybody that the neighborhood is about to get really busy. Kids walking to school, getting driven to school. I saw a one-wheeled electric, I don't even know what the thing was, the kid was riding on it. It was awesome looking. I actually wanted to ride it. So they're coming to school, in a million ways now. So just if you live in the neighborhood, if you're driving to the neighborhood, if you're dropping off, it's about to get really busy. So please be conscious of little ones and big ones
So
crossing in front of you.
Wednesdays, day one,
You got it. Yep.
and teachers are
Teachers on Monday, full staff on Tuesday.
excellent.
Yeah, So very, very
Best of
excited.
luck to you and everyone.
Thank you.
We have no need for executive
No
session.
need for executive session, so then that means I ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.